The bell tolls. The midnight hour is upon us. It's time once again for two internet strangers to discuss the good and evil of the horror genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the terror within the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Come one, come all, see the magnificent bearded freak.
That's a little harsh.
He does it all. He eats fire. He dances. He recites heart-wrenching prose.
Well, that's a little bit better.
He never bathes. He's going bald. Yes, he even fails to take social cues to leave the room when he's clearly not welcome.
Oh, come on.
Ladies, gentlemen, tickets are only $5. Okay, 3. Do I hear 1? 50 cents?
Okay, this skit is over. You can stop now.
Scream in horror at the sight of this horrible bearded freak's wardrobe malfunctions. Run to the nearest exorcist.
Hi, I'm Corey.
I'm Maddie.
And this is Hallow-Holics Anonymous. A show dedicated to all things horror and occasionally Halloween.
So, listeners, if you couldn't tell by that amazing intro skit, this episode is about freaks and freaked and freaky things and sideshows and freaks.
This is a topic that is quite close to my heart, too, because I am, or was, I guess. I don't do much of it anymore. Although I did recently stick a Q-tip the whole way up my nose to impress counselors at the summer camp I worked at. But anyway, I am a self-made freak. I am a retired self-made freak. I guess we should put it that way.
So as someone who understands that subculture, how would you describe the history of freakism?
It depends on what era. I guess since we're focusing on the sort of carnival bits of it, we're going to be focusing on the 30s mostly, and the whole Dust Bowl era sort of traveling freak show carnival type things. A lot of people back in the day enjoyed going to see these because people like to go see weird stuff that they wouldn't see normally. Towards the end of the whole traveling circus carnival freak show thing, people started to there was a sort of movement towards freaks being bad and it being wrong and it being exploitive. And I think probably some of the circuses were. Some of the carnivals were, but I think more often than not, this was probably the best life a lot of these people could have had at the time. I think especially Todd Browning's in Freaks, in your movie, these are actual freaks, obviously, which you'll touch upon, I'm sure, but I'm sure that, well, I'm not sure, but if I had to bet on it, I bet that those actual freaks were probably treated fairly well. And then you hear stories about, I think it was the world's smallest woman at one point, I forget which carnival she belonged to, but this is a fairly known story. She would be given gifts by people who came to see her and stuff like that, and she was a very respected woman, and she was treated very well. And just because the term freak had negative connotation, these people were seen as monsters a lot of time. I'm sort of rambling, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I really put you on the spot. I didn't tell you to prepare anything in advance. I just assumed it would come to you.
No. It normally would, but I only slept like an hour last night.
Oh, fun times. Yeah, I definitely think the sideshow as a theme, as a business, as what really brought people to the circus started to die right around the time that Nickelodeon showed up, when people could actually watch unusual things on the moving screen.
Yeah, and this was also coming off of a time where, we had destroyed the Midwest. There were dust storms traveling over the Midwest. We had completely ruined farmland there. It's why it's called the Dust Bowl. So a lot of people were really looking for, they weren't only looking for ways to get paid and to eat, but they were looking for ways to save their families. So a lot of these freaks were actually sold to these carnivals by desperate people.
Now, there was a culture that did develop around this, and there is, in a way, still a very small subculture, but a lot of people who did make their careers as circus freaks, if you will, weren't ashamed of it. They were very proud of it. They were celebrities in their own field.
Yeah, they embraced it.
Yeah, and a lot of times they even intentionally isolated themselves from what people would have said were normal people.
Yeah, they did. There was a town in Florida, I can't remember what it was called, and I actually probably wouldn't say it if I remembered what it was called, but it was a town pretty much reserved for retired or circus freaks that were on breaks, and I'm pretty sure it still exists to this day.
I mean, if you think about it, any group that becomes marginalized for pretty much any reason makes their own exclusive group. They make their own rules and...
True, but it's rare that they make themselves a town.
That is
was
true.
Really cool. And the town still exists. Like, there's a museum there and stuff. And, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
My film that I selected today was actually a classic in the freak field, or the... It's just a classic. It's a cult classic. I picked Freaks, directed by Todd Browning from 1932.
I think that we accidentally picked the old version of Freaks versus an example of the new version of Freaks. So you've got the old version that were mostly genetic freaks, genetic abnormalities, people whose DNA was a mess.
Or people who were horribly injured.
Or people who were horribly injured, yeah. Once that sort of ended and it picked up again, it started to be more self-made freaks where people like me come in, people who can hammer stuff up their nose, fire breathers, fire eaters, sword swallowers. Now, all this stuff existed then too, but the self-made freaks was less offensive to the masses, so you see more of that now, and my movie... Freaked is sort of an extreme example of self-made freaks or laboratory-made freaks.
Yeah, it's an extreme example of a lot of things.
Right.
But if you like that
example
kind of
how awesome Alex Winter is.
And someone else who I love. Do I have to say the name?
William, what's his name?
Yes, Bill Sadler. We've got to mention that he's in that movie because he's awesome.
He's in my notes, don't you worry.
Okay, we will get to that. But before we get to anything, before we get to the game, before we get to the movies, I think it's time to talk about... Shudder is going to be releasing a Creepshow anthology series directed by Greg Nicotero of Walking Dead fame.
God damn it, Shudder. No, seriously, I got all mad at them because they charged me too much, and I got mad and I canceled. Now they keep doing all this stuff that I want to... I'm gonna cave and get my subscription back.
I have high hopes for this because if there's anything about The Walking Dead I appreciate, and not that it should have ended 3 or 4 years ago, it's the physical effects, the makeup. So if they can bring that to a Creepshow TV series, it'll be like a revival of, Tales from the Dark Side or Monsters, the good, fun anthology horror. So I'm optimistic.
I hope so. I'm just a little worried. And I mean, Nicotero being involved is probably great, don't get me wrong, but I'm worried that it's because he spent so much time on The Walking Dead at this point that it's not going to have... I'm worried it won't be as fun as it could be. I just don't want more doom and gloom horror. I want something fun. I want new fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want new ridiculous horror.
I think we've had a lot of dramatic horror in the last decade, and I think it's time to laugh again.
I agree. If we could get an adult version of Monsters, I would be happy.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet. Every episode of Creepshow will have a different director at the helm, so it might even be like Masters of Horror.
Oh, that show died too quickly.
It was a good show, but there are episodes I will still go back and watch of that show that were so good.
Mm-hmm. I think it would still exist, too, if they wouldn't have angered so many directors.
All right, Jim Jarmusch is going to be creating a new movie, The Dead Don't Die, starring Bill Murray. In fact, it is in filming now. The way I phrased that was really weird, but I'm excited.
I am, too. I love Jim Jarmusch. Only Lovers Left Alive was great. Mm-hmm. I like that he's moved into horror. I like everything else he's done as well, but I like I'm really curious to see what he does with the zombie genre. And
I'm tired of zombies too. You have no idea. But I really like Bill Murray, so I'm excited about that.
I just don't care about zombies. Like, I'll watch a zombie movie. I'm not sick of them. I just don't care.
My favorite kind of zombie isn't featured anymore. My favorite kind of zombie is a Return of the Living Dead zombie. If I don't see someone crawling out of a grave, it's just not for me.
Yeah, I can give you that. I care less about that and more about, like, I just like when chemicals go wrong. That's kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm. I just like to see a really cool, like, montage of, like Return of the Living Dead. I love that. Or zombies. Yeah, when that body is sitting up. And you see the maggots in the eyeballs. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And that 45 Graves song starts playing.
There's going to be a new Attack of the Killer Tomatoes movie. That's right, guys. Another one.
Reboot, remake, or sequel?
Sequel.
Oh, that's awesome. I wonder if they'll get George Clooney back.
So, do you know what one of the possible titles is going to be? You're going to love this.
No, what?
Seeds of Destruction. And in fact, packets are being deposited around San Diego Comic-Con, or they were, in promotion of the upcoming project. If people were to find the scenes, they were asked to bring them to the Atomic Toy Box booth, where they can enter to audition for a part in Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Probably a leading role, too, because I can't imagine their standards are very high.
Winners will be selected by Halloween. So I'm going to just go ahead and say that after part 2, the other sequels were really, 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 really bad and hardly watchable. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give this new sequel another shot.
I actually didn't know there was anything after 2.
Yeah, there's one where they, like, eat Paris, attack Paris or whatever. There's another one. The Paris one was really long. That's the main thing I remember about it. And it was about, the sidekick in part 2, the evil henchman, the newscaster, the guy who wanted to be a newscaster.
No, but I trust you.
He had an identical doppelganger in that one who was the lost king of France. And he had long, glorious, like, brown hair. It was just stupid. It was ridiculous. Yeah. I'm excited about this next one.
Yeah, I mean, normally when they wait this long and they pull something back out, it's usually at least passable. I'm kind of stoked. I mean, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes 1 and 2 were, like, my movies when I was a kid. Like, I'm sure it drove my mom nuts how often I watched those. I had those on VHS when I was, like, 12, 11.
Dude, I was crazy about the cartoon, and I wanted a furry tomato doll.
I might have watched an episode here or there, but, yeah, I used to run around singing the theme song, which I will not be gracing you with today. Part 2 has released the names of the actors that will be playing the grown-up version of the Losers Club from the first movie. It looks to be a nice mix of people I've heard of and haven't heard of. Jessica Chastain is playing Beverly Marsh. James McAvoy is playing Bill Denborough. Bill Hader is going to play Richie, which I'm pretty excited for. And then here are some guys that I don't know. Like Andy Bean will be playing Stanley. James Ranson, who's great in The Wire and some other stuff I've seen him in that I can't remember, will be playing Eddie. Another guy I don't know, Isaiah Mustafa, will be playing Mike. Jay Ryan will be playing Ben. Don't know him either. Teach Grant, who looks very familiar, will be playing Henry Bowers. That's like the psycho kid. So yeah, I don't know a lot of these guys, but the first one, the first one has a lot of credit with me because I really enjoyed it. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do with this.
So for those of you who are horror fiction fans or who have followed the history of horror fiction, for a long time, horror has sort of been poison to bookmakers, to publishers, because it just doesn't sell, they say. It's not popular enough. In fact, in the 80s, when there was this huge glut of horror on the market, almost all of them insisted on not calling them horror. They weren't horror fiction, they were thrillers. And that's apparently different. Well, horror is having a big upswing in book publishing as of late. Book sales for horror are 33% up in the market. And that's a really, really big swing in the course of 1 year, thanks to shows like Stranger Things and Stephen King's It.
I think Channel Zero might have something to do with this as well. Plus, when society starts to crumble around us, which it's doing right now, horror tends to do a lot better. So does punk rock, which I'm kind of excited for. Music gets more aggressive, movies get more aggressive. That's about the only good thing about the world collapsing around us.
So when it becomes a joke, then hopefully horror becomes funnier?
Maybe. I don't know, but I mean, look at... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, at
but
any rate...
I do feel like we need to shout out to Tor Publishing, because Tor never stopped publishing horror. Mm-hmm. They've been doing it forever, and they're a great publisher. So thank you, Tor.
Thank you very much, Tor. And also thank you, Nielsen Bookscan in Bookseller Magazine, for giving us these figures. Doing God's work, I guess, or the devil's, however you want to define it.
All right, so as far as I'm concerned, this is the best news ever, so I saved it for last. I am a huge fan of the Vampire Diaries and the originals. There is a spin-off coming. I just watched the San Diego Comic-Con trailer for it, and I'm so stoked. It's going to premiere on October 25th, and it takes place years after the series finale of Vampire Diaries at the Salvatore School for the Young and Gifted. This is Alaric and Caroline's school that they started in the series finale. This features older versions of Hope Michelson, which is Klaus, the main dude in originals, as well as Lizzie and Josie Saltzman, which are Alaric's twins that him and Caroline are raising. Like, words can't describe... I should have written, like, a poem or a song. I just found out about this today, or I probably would have, to, like, express how excited. Vampire Diaries is such a ridiculous show with such a quick plot. It's not always good, but things change so fast in those shows that it doesn't even matter. And if this is even half as bonkers as either of those two shows were, it's going to be amazing. And Damon better make frequent cameos.
Well, I'm intrigued by the idea, but I'm ashamed to admit I've never really sat down and committed to Vampire Diaries.
Oh, it's so good. From, like, beginning to end, Vampire Diaries is phenomenal. I mean, I'm saying good. I don't mean good. I mean super fun. Like, it's a super fun show to just kind of, like, shut your brain off and watch.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I really think you should just binge the entire thing as soon as you have time. It is time for the Where is Steven death game.
Or, as I summarized in another episode, Desperately Seeking Steven.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah. So I guess you've won last game.
I've won a couple games here.
No need to rub it in, Corey.
I'm on a little bit of a streak.
We'll see how long that streak lasts, right, my friend.
This one might be a hard one. All right.
For you.
Well, we'll see. All right, I'll go first. A man's execution goes horribly wrong as he's turned into a giant version of himself that destroys the prison and all those inside.
Who?
Alex Winter stars.
Alex Winter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Stars. Oh, well, it's not Bill and Ted. It's not Lost Boys. He didn't turn into... No, definitely not Freaked. Or Death Wish 2.
Oh, I forgot he was in Death Wish 2.
Wait a minute. This isn't an episode of the Idiot Box, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. No, I have no idea.
It is Squeal of Death.
Is it good?
No. I've been on this because of Freaked and because you told me about Idiot Box. I've been on this Alex Winters rabbit hole all week. I've been watching everything I could find, and this actually predates Idiot Box by a year or two.
Really? So, he was just a baby, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
By the way, what did you think of Idiot Box?
I haven't finished it yet. I think I only got to episode 3, but I love it. I'm going to talk about this more, so I'm not really going to say much, but that dude must have had more, clout than I remember him having. He must have been more popular than I thought for him to be able to just do all this stuff.
I think he's very much a behind-the-scenes person. In fact,
I think so too.
He directed the new Smosh movie.
All right, your turn.
I've heard of chopsticks, but this is ridiculous. Somebody tell that girl to get away from the piano before it... Oh, never mind.
Hint.
One of the craziest horror movies of all time, even by Japanese standards.
God, there's so much there.
Would you like me to repeat it?
Yeah, maybe one more time.
I've heard of chopsticks, but this is ridiculous. Somebody tell that girl to get away from the piano before it... Oh, never mind.
Is it Takashi Miike?
No.
Ugh. Yeah, then I have no idea.
Hosu, or House.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that.
Oh, it's crazy. 1-1.
1-1. A family finds itself at a backwoods family barbecue where they are given hallucinogens and forced to eat their only son.
Clue, please.
The Butthole Surfers star and do most of the music, if not all of the music. All of the music.
Oh, gosh.
Alex Winter also directs this.
Oh, shoot. I don't know.
Barbecue.
Oh my gosh. You better not have all Alex Winter questions on
No, I actually flirted with the idea, but I think that's my last Alex Winter one.
I'm beginning to think we need to do an Alex Winter episode.
Oh, I'm totally down with that. You should watch Barbecue. It's Alex Winter directs, and I'm pretty sure the Butthole Surfers either had a hand in writing it or wrote the whole thing. I'm not really sure, but it's also got, did you watch Deadwood?
I've seen it.
All right, so you know the main character played by Timothy Oliphant, the best friend, the little Jewish guy?
It's been too long.
Oh, okay. Well, he's actually the dad of the family, and you'll recognize him as soon as you see it. He's a big character actor. But yeah,
Okay.
it's real short. It's like 15 minutes long, but you should definitely watch it.
I'll definitely check it out.
Cool.
It's so tough being a maniacal, sexy beast when all your victims come back to life to rip you apart. Or not. I'm still pretty confused about that.
It's not The Hunger. That's not ridiculous enough. Maniac?
Oh, you got it.
Yes. What was the hint?
Just Spinell.
I see. I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't have gotten that hint. That's the one part of Maniac that sticks in my brain.
Just Spinell is actually the main the star.
Oh, okay. And the only reason that movie is actually solidified in my brain is the first time me and my best friend watched it, we got super wasted, and every time the Maniac would come on screen, we would sing Maniac.
I kind of feel like being wasted might be the best way to watch that movie.
I think it's
so
the only way
bizarre.
to watch that movie. But that little tune carried into our regular lives too. So we'd pass each other in the hall in high school and sing Maniac, or do it in the middle of class and get in trouble, or do it to a bully and get punched. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
High school was difficult.
Alright, your turn.
This poor young lady was slashed in her face, then triggers a tripwire resulting in a knife to the forehead.
Clue?
Stars Gary Busey. I'll be a little better. Voiced by Gary Busey.
Oh, Ginger Dead Man?
Yeah, there you go.
Yay!
I felt bad you weren't getting any points.
So we're excuse me.
We're not tied. It's 3-1. Or 3-2.
How's it 3-2?
Because that's what I have on my thing.
Okay, fine.
Because you didn't get my... Yeah, because you didn't get my...
Yeah, okay, I got it. Kill is kiss. Kill is kiss. Is that it? Kill is kiss? Kill is kiss. Kill is kiss. Kill is kiss. Kill is kiss. Kill is kiss? Kill is kiss. What is kill?
Not Trick or Treat. Or Ragman. Hint.
Radio.
Pontypool?
Yeah.
Yes!
Now, that is a movie I definitely want to talk about at some point soon.
Oh, for sure. There's going to be a series. I don't know how they're going to pull that off.
I don't think I like that idea.
Yeah,
I think it worked best as a one-off. But...
Yeah, I agree. Cops getting their heads twisted off and their faces eaten. A child squished as its dead mother falls on it. Sometimes it's easier to ask your brother just to post bail.
Clue.
The director is quoted as saying, "To me, B-movies today are the crap Hollywood's releasing, but they're not doing it on a B-movie budget."
Dude, I have no idea.
Yeah, it was really hard to find a clue that wouldn't totally give it away. Do you want me to find you another clue?
Yes, please.
Starring Kevin Van Hentenryck. I will be super impressed if you get it.
I don't know.
Do you give up?
Yes.
Basket Case 3.
Nice.
It's pretty much the only good scene in that movie. It's when Belial, invades the police station and just murders everybody. Even his child and his mother. Or his... Not the child's mother.
Well, you know what? I applaud you for that one.
Thank you.
German Nazi sadomasochistic pedophile rugby coach gets his just desserts.
Oh, man. I just watched this not too long ago. That was me hitting my head. Did you hear it?
Yeah, I hear it.
Oh, what the hell was that movie? What's the clue?
Stoner comedy.
What was it? I'm gonna feel like such a dumbass. Oh, wait.
Again,
no,
yeah, what?
Because I'm thinking it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
No.
But that guy was just like a bondage dude.
Yeah, he wasn't a German Nazi sadomasochistic pedophile rugby coach.
But he was a coach and he liked leather.
I knew you would think it was that one, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I give up.
Night of the Living Dorks.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Oh, it's great. It kind of came out like a few years after Idle Hands, and it's pretty much the German answer to Idle Hands, but everyone turns into a zombie.
Wait, is this one that starts out with a kid turning into a zombie and getting, like, superpowers because of it?
No, it's the one where the guy starts out with a dream about having the best sex and getting an award for it. And then his mom wakes up and tells him that morning wood is perfectly normal.
Okay, no, I haven't seen that one, but now I have to.
It's hilarious.
Poor old Phil. He was poisoned and died with a pants load of what was definitely not chocolate pudding.
God. Clue, please.
Lloyd Kaufman actually has a starring role in this film. Like, he's in it a lot.
Poultrygeist.
No.
Baby Bullet.
No. Are you going to do that thing where you just keep saying names?
One more.
All right. Wait, one more guess or one more clue?
One more guess.
Okay.
Killer Nerd.
No.
Okay, I give up.
It was Terra Firma.
Oh. Alright. So even though it's pointless, I'll give you my last question anyway.
Alright.
That poor kitty cat. Oh well, at least the family gets to enjoy a nice meal with some bugs and weeds on the side.
Clue?
Lon Chaney Jr.
Cat Lon Chaney Jr. I don't know.
Spider Baby.
Oh man, I've never seen that the whole way through. That's got Sid Haig too, huh?
It does. In fact, I thought giving Sid Haig's name would be a dead giveaway.
It might have been. I might have been able to guess it then.
Yeah, it's a pretty silly movie.
I've tried. That's one of those movies that I feel like I'm supposed to like, and I just can't get into it.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in the right mindset, it's easier to watch. Maybe prefacing it or prefacing it with Carnival of Souls or Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things would probably put you more into that kind of feel.
Right on, right on. I really do love both of those. Carnival of Souls, just because it's atmospheric perfection.
It is.
And Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, just because it's the creepiest PG movie ever made.
They have so much fun. The guy who basically is obsessed with playing around and making gags about digging up this dead body.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I probably knew that guy in high school.
Oh yeah, me too. I actually probably was that guy in high school.
Ah! Okay. So, is it time to talk about our movies, I guess?
I think so.
Okay. So, starting with the 1932 cult classic Freaks.
We didn't lie to you, folks. We told you we had living, breathing monstrosities. You laughed at them, shuddered at them, and yet, but for the accident of birth, you might be even as they are. They did not ask to be brought into the world, but into the world they came. Their code is a law unto themselves. Offend one, and you offend them all.
Sideshow freaks, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible, and a beautiful woman who's far more grotesque on the inside than the out, come together in this bizarre cult classic directed by Todd Browning, wherein a sideshow performer named Hans, a little person, falls in love with and weds the gorgeous trapeze artist Cleopatra, who plots to murder poor Hans with her lover, the strongman Hercules. The wedding party goes horribly wrong as Cleopatra's true nature is revealed, and soon her evil plot is foiled by a rather colorful and disturbing revenge scene carried out by the freaks she despised. This is melodrama, guys. It's impossible to describe without giving away everything.
Yeah, and we really shouldn't. Although I will say, the only thing I'm going to give away in the end is, how does that torso... What does he think he's going to do with that knife when he's just a torso and a head?
Well, you haven't seen him perform any of his acts. You don't know.
That's true. He's just wiggling over there towards the violence. So he's not gonna that part. I don't like to laugh at someone's disability, and I'm not in this case. But sometimes I feel guilty because it feels like I am. But I'm just laughing at the situation this poor guy's got himself into.
Well,
because he wants to help, he's just not going to be able to.
Well, you gotta admit, he looks pretty creepy crawling through the mud and the rain.
Oh, yeah, very. That's such a perfect scene, just all of them crawling through the mud and the rain. It's so great.
It's incredible. It's iconic, and there's the way they kind of speed up the shot a little to look like they're moving unnaturally on top of that. It's so trippy.
It really is.
Like, I could picture someone setting up a Halloween horror house and playing that scene on a huge flashing projector in one of the rooms in the dark. And that would be sufficiently disturbing.
Oh, no doubt. That would be terrifying.
So a lot of people argue that this movie was sort of the career death toll for Todd Browning. Even though, like, one of his movies afterwards was Devil Doll, he really didn't get much work after this. And part of it is because of how this film was received. It was a massive flop. It had to be pulled from theaters. People were wildly offended. They didn't even make their money back in the production. And also, Todd Browning was a raging alcoholic.
See, this is kind of what I was touching upon when we were doing my sort of half-baked history lesson on 1930 stuff. I mean, this was filmed in 32, but already people are considering what's happening with freak shows exploitive.
Exactly. But, you know, I think more than anyone else, Todd Browning really was the perfect person to play in this role. He actually lived the circus runaway trope as a teenager. He was a carnival barker, a clown, a contortionist. He played almost every role you can think of that someone who didn't have a physical disability or a deformity could play. This was a passion project for him.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that in the first, before everything gets all revengey, you can see that throughout, because it's really more of a movie about what these characters do when they're not in the spotlight. You know, it's a whole bunch of, like, them hanging out. You know, and granted, there's the plot-required scheming that's going on and things like that. But anytime you see the freaks, they're doing probably what they'd be doing anyways, and I thought that was really, really cool. And I like that they threw in a little compassion at the beginning when that dude finds the pinheads on his property. Yeah. And his caretaker is like, oh, you guys gotta go, and the dude was cool, and he's like, no, we understand, they can hang out. I thought that was really neat, too. I like that they didn't treat these characters like freaks. Yeah, they were people. And, you know, there actually would have been a lot more of those kinds of sequences, but it was, after a few screenings, the movie was butchered by producers and censors. They took, like, all the scenes they took out were lost today. They can't be recovered. This went from, like, a 90-something minute movie to a little over an hour. Yeah, I think it's an hour, 2 minutes. Yeah, and many of those side stories further developed the characters in the sideshow. There's even another note, the Venus and Frozzo character who fall in love, the only, other than the bad guys, the only two, quotation marks here, normal people. It was kind of cut, but in the original script, Venus was a nymphomaniac and Frozzo was impotent. And they touch on that in like a couple of discussions. Yeah, that's briefly mentioned as Frozzo's walking out of the wagon at one point. He talks about since his operation or something like that. I forget exactly. And since this was the pre-code era, there were a lot of, coming up on the code, of course, that censored Hollywood for decades. This movie was often cited as an example for why movies needed to be censored. I can see people doing that because people don't understand what they're seeing. I mean, even, today, like, for the first viewing, it's likely going to make you recognize your own issues if you don't have a severe disability or a missing limb, etc. Because most of us, in a way, are a little like Hercules and Cleopatra. When you see someone with, say, a really bad scar, when you see someone with a missing arm or something, you look. And then you probably think about how long you're looking at them. And then you think, I really want to know why they have that issue. And then you think, I shouldn't ask because it makes me a terrible person. And you just kind of overanalyze it, all the while you're still kind of staring at this person and you're hoping they don't notice you looking. But then you think, well, a lot of people probably look at them like that. Yeah, I see that. I mean, my summer camp is for disabled people. And we go on public trips all the time. And I see the most polite thing I see are people staring too long. That's I've seen some pretty terrible things, and I've heard some pretty terrible things, and I've had to stand up to some pretty terrible people while we were out on public events, because people really don't know how to react to people who are different than they are. Yeah, exactly. And, eventually, during production, the entire cast, the ones who were, again, quotation marks, freaks, were actually banned from eating in the studio commissary by Louis B. Mayer because they made normal people sick.
He almost shut down the film altogether because he himself was disgusted by them.
Ugh, what a dick.
Ooh. And then, get this. The studio, to try to recoup some of their money, sold the film rights to a guy named Dwayne Esper, who cut in his own title frames, making dirty jokes and sexual remarks about all of the characters, did his own cut of the film and cut in some really weird sequences, and traveled with it in an adults-only, aka porn roadshow.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Not with the... Like, he didn't take all these characters on, like, a porn tour.
He took the movie on a porn tour.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
understand.
Not the actors, thankfully.
Yeah. See, now
That
would
would've
be
been pretty
exploiting
awful.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fact, in interviews, only Olga Roderick, the bearded later actually regretted appearing in the film. Most of the cast considered the making of Freaks a wonderful experience. They thought Todd Browning was casting a sympathetic eye on them, and they even gave him, at the end of filming, they gave him a locket in the shape of a little book, a golden locket, and on each page their names were engraved.
That's really cool. And that's what it felt like to me, too. It really felt like he cared about the people he was involving in his story, and I really dug that.
Mm-hmm. On a side note, there are some tragic stories involving the actors in this film. Daisy and Violet Hilton. There was actually a Broadway show called Sideshow made based off of them. Fantastic songs, but very sad lives. They eventually ended up destitute, and they had to work at a grocery store for the rest of their lives alone. They died alone. One of them died before the other, and they were stuck at home, and they were discovered a few days later, but basically the other sister was left alive for 2 to 4 days.
Oh, God.
And Johnny Eck, who played the half-boy, pretty much lived a very sad and lonely life, and in the very end, he was nearly beat to death in his home by robbers. So.
Jesus. See, now this is why those people founded their own town back in the day. So they could avoid stuff like this, and so they wouldn't have to feel alone.
Yeah.
It's too bad it wasn't there then.
I just really hope that some people watching this movie at the time maybe did see the sympathetic human story this melodrama was trying to tell.
I'm sure some people did.
Mm-hmm. And, it was banned in several American states upon its release, and even some countries. What you'd call a video nasty in Britain. I mean, I can understand something like Cannibal Holocaust, but Freaks is pretty tame in comparison.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and I'm not going to ruin it here, but the only bit of really disturbing sort of body horror is the very end, but...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to give that away. But that definitely freaked me out, that part.
Well, have you seen the Mad Max movies?
Yes, of course.
So, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the character master... Angelo Rossito was in this movie. He was the biggest star in Freaks.
That's why I recognized that voice. That was driving me crazy.
And this is a little crazy, but he was also Shirley Temple's stunt double.
That's actually pretty hardcore. Well, I don't know if they had, like, Shirley Temple jumping off buildings or anything. I'm, oddly enough, not well-schooled on Shirley Temple film.
Well, she did some pretty intense tap dancing sequences.
She probably did those herself, though, huh?
Well, yeah, but like, a Little Princess when she had to climb out that building, I'm sure Angelo Rossito was involved. At any rate, this movie is such a fascinating example of film history. It's a cult classic. I think anyone who just loves films needs to see it. It's one of those 500 movies you need to see before you die kind of lists, Freaks is definitely up there.
For sure. Didn't they try to remake it? Isn't there like a Freaks remake?
There have been a few odd parallel attempts. I think there was one of the, I want to say mid-'80s to early '90s, but it did not do so well.
I don't see a specific remake. I don't remember where I got that idea. I have to research it more. There's a movie called Freak Show, but that's definitely not it.
Mm-mm.
Oh, actually, yes, it is.
It is?
It's an unofficial remake of the Todd Browning film Freaks, The Asylum.
There you go.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah, I've heard it wasn't so good.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it, but I can't. Well, now I'm going to have to watch it. So, yeah, but
so
I thought...
was Freaks, yeah.
I might be getting it confused with Carnival of Souls.
Carnival of Souls is definitely has nothing to do with Freaks.
No. It's just the whole Carnival thing. But there's a very terrible remake of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all I got on your Freaks movie. That was a weird way to say it.
Just go out and see it, guys, if you still haven't. You won't regret it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little slow at parts, but it's generally pretty awesome, especially if you go into it looking at it as more of a movie about these people's lives than a melodrama, I think.
Yeah, and if you've seen, like, Devil Doll, or if you've seen, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, then you kind of know how slow Todd Browning's pacing in films tended to be. That's kind of how the pacing is structured in this. A lot of quiet moments with very minimal music.
Yeah, and to me, I thought the minimal music was great, too. Like, anytime there's minimal music, there's always more tension.
There really is. Yeah, definitely. On to a much more sober, straight-laced, and serious film.
Much like myself.
Ricky Coogan, Brat Pack Sleazebag. Elijah C. Scuggs, Freak Show Tycoon, an amateur bioengineer.
I can look at a guy like Kevin Costner and see a giant peach grub.
When fate brought them together, Mr. Scuggs took an average Hollywood slime ball and made something out of him.
Oh, God! This was my good side!
20th Century Fox presents Freaked. It's about friendship.
I thought I told you to shut up!
Loyalty.
I say we kill him.
Life's big questions.
How many feminists does it take?
So my movie was the highbrow comedy Freaked, directed by Alex Winter. Freaked is about a near-washed-up child actor, Ricky Coogan, who is played by Alex Winter, who gets a job as a spokesperson for a company that deals in toxic waste, called EES, Everything Except Shoes Company. Or the Everything Except Shoes Corporation, excuse me. On his way to his first gig, he stumbles upon a freak show where he, his best friend, and a girl, a political activist that they pick up along the way, are held captive and transformed into hideous mutants by Elijah C. Scuggs, played by Randy Quaid. And I was thinking about this. If Randy Quaid had negotiated in his contract to keep that giant spinning head, him and his wife would have somewhere to live after they went crazy.
Yeah, I feel like if any actor was going to hold me hostage and turn me into a circus freak, it would probably be Randy Quaid.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the type of stuff he'd be doing now if that was actually a possibility. He's pretty crazy these days.
That's still amazing.
True. So Ricky and his crew are not alone in this. They share a prison with other mutants and must find a way to escape before Scuggs' plan to complete Ricky's mutation and have him kill his friends is put into motion. I love that they spend their days in this prison acting out game shows. Like the first time Ricky meets these other freaks, they're playing a shoddy version of Hollywood Squares. Later on, they play they do play Wheel of Fortune, but they also play the one with Vanna White.
Yeah, they pretty much play anything that gives the set designer and the crew an opportunity to make something crazy.
Yeah, to make something ridiculous, which is pretty great. This movie is full of cameos. Like, I have no idea. Alex Winter must have been like a pretty big dude back then. Like, he must have been a pretty known dude for a character actor, especially. Because he had, I mean, obviously you've got William Sadler in there, and Keanu Reeves actually played Ortez the Dog-Faced Boy. He was uncredited, but he got $1 million for that.
He was uncredited, but the joke is that he keeps being credited as Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
If you look at the DVD cover, it calls him Freddie Prinze Jr.
Nice. I mean, obviously those two came from Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Obviously that's where Winters picked them up. There was, I can't remember his name, but there's another character. There were a couple characters that he picked up from his show, Idiot Box. That's where there's Gibby Haynes from the Butthole Surfers actually has a cameo. He has a ridiculous name, but I don't remember what it is. Oh, Gibby Haynes is credited as Cheesewort in this movie. And he's just some weird dude that, like, yells in the audience for a second.
Well, I know the actor who plays Nosy is also a writer, producer, director. He worked with the Ben Stiller show. So I think a lot of them might have met each other through, like, various MTV work.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, like, those were the Wild West days of MTV, where it knew it was a channel that showed music videos, but it wanted to do other stuff, and it was doing cool stuff like the Ben Stiller show, Idiot Box, Pauly Shore's stuff,
Liquid Television,
a little bit later on, was that Syphil and Ollie?
Oh, I love Syphil and Ollie.
Yeah, it was back like when MTV wasn't just about, like, pregnant teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, I was a decade too late to be a part of the MTV generation, but I've watched plenty of the old stuff, and I do remember some of the more bizarre shows and cartoons that lingered in the 90s from their good old days. This movie definitely feels like an amalgamation of everything that was wonderfully insane about those shows and the people who made them.
Yeah, everything Alex Winter did, actually, in this time period, from Idiot Box to the Barbecue short to the Squeal of Death short he did to Freak. This is all like old MTV when it was still sort of a fringe thing and it was still fun and it didn't just ruin itself. It's actually kind of depressing going back and watching all this stuff and remembering how good it all used to be, you know?
Yeah, I guess we kind of have tastes of that on like YouTube, but it's also compartmentalized.
Yeah, true. And you can't just... Like, back in the day, I remember finding Liquid Television randomly. Like, I had never seen it before. In fact, I remember finding Freaked randomly. I had no idea what it was. It was like... I remember it as a Saturday afternoon, but it was probably like a Friday at 2 a.m. Like,
I don't even remember how I found Freaked.
Yeah, I was just flipping through the channels, and I noticed Alex Winter. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the dude from Lost Boys. I'm going to give this a minute. And then the movie just explodes into this craziness, and I'm like, E.T., and I'm like, holy crap, that's Bobcat Goldthwait. Brooke Shields plays a talk show. Morgan Fairchild is a stewardess. Like, this movie just blew my mind when I saw
Bill Sadler.
Yeah, and William Sadler, who I already mentioned, plays... But I'll mention a little more for you. Okay. William Sadler plays the head of the evil EES, the Everything Except Shoes Company. And it's their fault all of this is happening. And he's got this great gag where he's got this row of yes men, but they're just senile old men that he puppeteers with this little lever he has. He pulls it to make them raise their hand when he needs votes or to clap when he says something clever. It's pretty hilarious.
My name is George Ramirez.
This is Juan Valdez. and that's the sort of like socially aware casual racism, I guess, of that time period too, that you just don't get anymore either. There's a whole lot of spoofing going on in this too.
Yeah.
You've got like the spoofing of the CEO racist jerk treating these Central American people like they're nothing, not even knowing their names. You've got you've also got it spoofing kids in movies as well. Like normally a character like Stewie Gluck would drive me crazy. I hate kids like this in movies. He could have been a total drag as a character, but they managed to, whether on purpose or by accident, spoof children in horror movies so well. In the beginning, all this poor kid wants to do is hang out with Ricky Coogan. But he keeps getting beaten and abused by this guy. And Ricky's his idol. Like, he loves him. And Ricky, like, slams his head in a door a bunch of times, which results in him getting hit by a drink cart and thrown out of a jet. Like, the kid falls out of a jet.
How old were you in 93?
93. I definitely saw it later than 93, but I would have been... I graduated in 96, so I would have been 15, give or take.
Not much older than this character, then.
No, yeah, not much older. But yeah, the other, like, so this is a spoof of this kid chasing around his idol. In a normal movie, this would have been like a buddy thing between Ricky and the kid eventually. But it sort of happens later. I don't want to ruin, but not really. The other great thing it does is it plays on that trope about kids not being heard. So Stewie writes this article exposing everything. Like, the article like lays out what's going on at this freak show with the toxic waste and all this stuff, and he keeps taking it to newspaper offices, and they keep tossing the poor kid out windows. Like,
violently.
Yeah, violently. He gets thrown through so many windows when he finally gets to the Weekly World News, and they're the only news organization, obviously, that will accept this article. He throws himself out the window because he's been thrown out of so many windows. He now thinks this is what's supposed to happen, which is genius. Like, everything about Stewie Gluck is hilarious to me, and normally that would drive me crazy. So kudos to the movie for doing that. I generally hate movies that rely heavily on puns, and I'm 50-50 on whether or not having a child in a main role works or not. And like I said, the kid works perfectly.
You know, I can't even lie and say I agree with you, because I've watched The Wrong Guy a million times, and I love a good Leslie Nielsen picture, so I'm all about the puns.
Yeah, I mean, some old Leslie Nielsen stuff I can deal with, but I'm just not a pun guy. But in this, they managed to pull it off. You've got characters like the cowboy, who's literally a cowboy that is part cow. And my all-time personal favorite, like, I think about these characters sometimes and I laugh. The Rastafaris.
I thought your favorite would be the farting guy.
No, but that's a guy from, that's another guy from Idiot Box.
Yeah.
Yeah, the farting guys from Idiot Box. But the Rastafaris are Jamaicans who have been mutated into giant eyeballs who carry machine guns and guard the freak show. And they make me laugh, no matter what. Like, I'm thinking about them now, and I'm almost cracking up. Like,
the milkmen are fighting. So many milkmen on one route. No wonder.
That was actually a really good Randy Quaid impersonation.
All right, so I can do Randy Quaid, but
Yeah,
I can't even surprise.
And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Screaming Mad George and the other effects companies who brought these mutants to life through practical effects, claymation, and stop motion.
And maybe a little bit of drugs.
Oh, maybe a lot of drugs. I think that maybe Screaming Mad George... I didn't do a whole lot of research, and this is just what I think happened. I think Screaming Mad George might have designed and had a hand in building a lot of this stuff, but apparently I read just briefly there were 3 other effects companies involved. And I mean, it was a big show, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were all working together. This is one of those movies that it's basically a live-action cartoon.
Yes.
And movies like these don't work with CGI, whether good or bad. CGI, it wouldn't work. It has to be practical effects, and it has to be stop motion. That shoe at the end is terrifying, and it wouldn't be nearly as scary if it was a CGI thing. The fact that it's stop motion and making that terrible moan is so horrifying to me. That's like the scariest part in the movie for me, that shoe.
And if that I Like Ike sign was CGI...
Oh, that was pretty great, too.
Yeah.
That whole orgy of violence.
This is the sort of movie my friends agree to watch with me, and then decide never to trust my taste in films again.
Yeah. This is the type of movie I show to people so they know how cool I still am.
Yeah, and then I have to earn their respect again with an actual legitimately terrifying or dramatic film, and it sucks.
Oh, no, I embrace films like this, but you know that about me by now. So this movie's apparently streaming on Starz right now, so if you have it, track it down and watch it. You probably won't be disappointed, but if you are, then I will be disappointed in you.
But do you really want to disappoint Corey, guys?
If I were you, I wouldn't.
It's just another great movie to chalk up to funny sort of mad scientist characters, too. And there are so few good mad scientist movies.
Yeah, that's very true.
Oh, Mad Carnival Barker Scientist.
Randy Quaid plays mad well, and knowing what I know about him now, he's not playing it. He's just crazy.
Poor Randy.
So on a completely different note, I didn't finish watching Freak. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I didn't finish it until like 6:45 tonight, because I meant to finish it last night, but I discovered this movie called Trick or Treat, which is also not the Vignette movie. This is an old movie with Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons from Kiss. They make cameos. Ozzy Osbourne plays a like right-wing Christian soldier on TV. It's ridiculous.
Was that the one where the grandpa was a Satan worshiper?
No. But now that you say that, you might be able to help out with my plea. So I'm watching this movie because I remember when I was a kid, there was this movie. I have no idea what it was called. I remember that the main character is like some metal kid, and he gets this record, and he plays it backwards, and it's these ingredients for a spell. And the only ingredient I remember, and I think I remember how it's said, too. Like, I think the one ingredient I remember, it kind of goes like this. Fingertip of a blood relative. Like, I remember that. But I don't remember anything else about the film, and I thought that maybe this Trick or Treat or Ragman movie was that, but it wasn't.
Are you sure it's not The Gate?
I'm positive it's not The Gate.
Okay.
Yeah, I know The Gate. It's definitely not The Gate. But it's
saying
along
he plays
those
a record
lines.
backwards.
But the phrase fingertip of a blood relative is like exactly in that. And then the dude goes to like a family grave and like digs up like his family member, cuts a finger off. That doesn't happen in The Gate. Because The Gate's all about like they find that geode and they crack it open and the gates of hell open in that hole in the backyard, like, and there's a rocket. But I don't think they do any, because I think the spell in that just happens when they do the record backwards in The Gate, right?
Well, he does it on purpose, I think, because he's a weirdo.
No, he definitely does it on purpose, but he doesn't,
intentionally open the gate to hell. No, they didn't know the dog was, like, killed and buried in the backyard. Mm-hmm. Which was the blood sacrifice, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, but if any of you out there know this movie I'm talking about, I haven't posted it on Reddit because I don't feel like getting, like, chastised by the pretentious movie nerds out there.
Tip of my tongue's not gonna chastise you.
You never know. Tip of my tongue can be it depends on who's answering.
Yeah, but then the other people usually shout them down when they're rude about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe I'll try that, but I'd rather try the podcast first. So if anybody knows where fingertip of a blood relative comes from, in fact, I'm going to Google it right now before I go, just to prove that I can't just find it based on that line. Watch,
and he opened a portal to hell.
Yeah. Now, see, the first reaction, why can't I remember the name? What's it called when, the first result. The first result of fingertip of a blood relative is, what do your hands say about your health?
Okay, I'm actually pretty good at Google Foo.
I'm telling you, well, there's blood relative, but that's 2017, that's not it. Yeah, I don't know.
What did doing the spell cause?
I don't remember. I just remember fingertip of a blood relative.
Yeah, you're gonna... Wait a minute. Whoa, I think I might have found it. Hold on. Go to the head of the class is unusual because it's only one of 2 episodes of Amazing Stories. That's an hour long. This episode, like many others, in this case, Robert Zemeckis is at the helm.
You know what? It might have been an episode of Amazing Stories.
2 loser high school students hate their English teacher. However, the girl has a plan to use black magic to get revenge. It calls for the fingertip of a blood relative and some incantations. But will it work?
That's it. And what's the episode called?
Go to the head of the class.
I can't believe I never thought it might be an episode of Amazing Stories. That's so obvious.
I love Amazing Stories.
Yeah, dude, that's totally it. Oh, now that I'm seeing the...
I am amazing.
Oh, nice work. I'm also leaving this entire thing into the podcast. This is important.
Guys, please keep using tip of my tongue. Don't just start emailing us questions about what that movie was.
Oh, yeah, please don't. Oh, is that Christopher Lloyd, too? Is it? Yeah, dude, Christopher Lloyd's in this. Can you still hear me, or are you not talking to me?
Yeah, I don't know what to say to you. I already found you your answers.
All right. Okay, my answers have been found. Let's just end the podcast, then.
Just end the podcast forever?
No, well, I mean, hopefully not, but just for 7 days. I meant we need to do our sign-off stuff.
All right. So, guys, that was Freaked. Not much else to say about it, because how can you describe every single insane thing that happens point by point? That would take all the fun out of it.
Did Patrick Swayze get electrocuted on an episode of Amazing Stories? I'm sorry, I'm losing focus.
I don't recall. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. You know what? Not Patrick Swayze, but there is an episode called Hell to Pay, and a character does get electrocuted.
No, there's an episode called Life on Death Row, and I'm pretty sure it's Patrick Swayze.
He does! Yeah. You're right! Oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that episode in ages.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, if you want to follow our fan blog about Amazing Stories, or if you want to check out our blog, you can find us at hallow-holic.blogspot.com or hallow-holic.wordpress.com.
You can find us on Twitter at nowhere23 or search for hallow-holic.
You can email us at hallow-holics@outlook.com. Send all your inappropriate things to Corey and all your normal stuff to me.
And you can check us out on Podpedia, which is a wiki for all things podcast.
But our portal, our portal is HHA.
I don't know what that portal stuff means.
Well, portal is just kind of the web address, like at the end where it's slash whatever it is. It's HHA for ours.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot shorter than Hallow-Holics Anonymous or the Hallow-Holics Anonymous podcast.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, portal, HHA, do that.
All right, step right up.
Maddie, I don't want to be a part of this skit anymore. You've really hurt my feelings tonight.
Look at him cry, the bearded crybaby.
This is really very mean.
Watch as he wallows in sadness and misery. No one will ever.
Good night, everybody.